Hello, Jule. Good morning. Welcome to our conversations, Truth for the Sake of Truth. Uh, I'm so glad we are finally able to talk with each other, but because for a while I was trying to get through and it was not going, and the calls, my camera was not working. I don't know what was happening there.
Well, we create our experiences. The cool part about that, Siley, good morning, good morning. The cool part of it is if we're affected by any situation that is present, it's helping us to identify what it is that is stuck in our mind because we're victimized by the experience.
Yeah,
And when we
I think
feel victimized by the experience, what happens? There's resistance, there's energies, there's emotions. But
so.
then
Right
what
now, when I was not able to get through to you, I started feeling little irritated, and I felt that why is this happening? Oh, this shouldn't happen. I was kind of resisting what was happening at this moment.
Mhm.
And that is what I actually wanted to talk to you about, which was about why we
Isn't it
feel good and
interesting?
bad.
Is that interesting?
It
Because when
is.
you look at it, when you look at your experiences, when you're aligned with truth, there is no duality. You're one with the whole of God. You realize that every step you take is aligned perfectly. So if a situation comes up that interrupts you, you just make a left turn or a right turn. That's part of the flow because in truth everything is just in the flow
Yeah.
and you're never affected by experiences, you just are.
So when interruption comes, only because we resist it and we label it by saying that it's a bad thing, it
Well,
becomes
yeah,
bad
we say it's
for us.
bad or we say it's evil.
Yeah.
Siley, here, let's talk about that because that is such a wonderful part of this experience of life. What happens is we say something is evil, right?
Yeah.
So we look at something as being an external force of evil that is present or it's bad, okay,
Hmm.
as
Hmm.
opposed to good.
Good.
Well,
Yeah.
those forces don't enter your life. It's your mind that accepts dual forces, such as evil and good. And then those perceptions, that's part of your mind. So it's part of your consciousness. We create those experiences.
But it's so burned in our minds from childhood that you have to be a good a boy or a
Oh,
good
of
girl,
course.
and this is bad behavior. Why do we create this two-sided, two different ways of being?
And think about how we've learned. I remember my mother, no, 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 no. Why? Why is that no? Why is that yes? But you see, individuals from the beginning of time, I mean, like, think about it in terms of what's going on in the world. People
Yeah.
have learned this behavior and it's become part of the collective consciousness. My mother didn't think that she was doing anything out of the ordinary by scolding me, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
Instead of expressing what the no separateness is, she didn't realize it. She didn't know it. But the beauty of it, Siley, is now we are able to realize it. We're
Mm,
open to realize it. And you know what? That's why we're here. That's why you and I are having this discussion.
yeah. So if there was no right and wrong, so to the mind, to the human mind, it feels like I can make decisions based on what is right thing to do and what is wrong thing to do. And if there is no right and wrong, how do we navigate this life?
Well, you can't change the outside. For
Mm,
instance, if you didn't have a right and wrong, as long as the collective consciousness is in that power control manipulating stage,
mm,
people would be annihilated by the others. We can only look at it from the perspective of ourselves. One by one, we make a difference. So when you're affected by something, you identify what it is affecting you, and you will know that whatever it is that's affecting you is your creation. Now, what do you do with that creation? Instead
Well,
of continue, say it.
I see it and I realize that I have created this, so it is shiftable. And
Correct.
you remember the truth that you are actually one with the whole,
That's
and then
correct.
you're able to shift that whatever
Yes.
resistance is to the love of the whole.
Yes. And it's pure love. So when you're coming from a place of one with the whole of God, there is no duality. So okay, look at the experience that you had over our situation with the video, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Very interesting because you were bringing it forth so that you could identify it. But look at what's happening, Siley. You have a perfect way to discuss the very theme that you wanted to discuss. I
yes,
was
let.
perfectly fine. I just said, you know what? Let's just let it flow.
Yeah, and I was thinking, why am I not able to get through this call? What's happening with my camera? What's happening? And then you said, just take a deep breath. And I
Mhm.
took a deep breath and I realized that it's okay, whatever happens, it's the flow.
That's
Like
exactly
we
right.
try to make things right, so-called right, but we don't know what's right. Everything is right, actually.
When you're coming from a place of one in truth, for the sake of truth, you don't have wants. Because you know what? You're the grand creator of everything anyway. It just flows to you, through you, beyond you. And that's really what we're here to accomplish from my perspective. That's what I see. That's how I live my life. And what happens is we stop creating division because we're one. So, okay, if someone says to you, Siley, you have to unconditionally love that tyrant. He's
Mm.
very evil. You have to unconditionally love him, however. What do you say to that?
I can't just see if I'm thinking of a tyrant, if I'm giving that label, I can't love that because that's already resistance.
That's correct. And you know what it is? It's about unconditionally loving self, which is pure love anyway. So the unconditional love is not for that tyrant, it's rather the pure expression of who you are.
Yeah.
That's when there's no duality, okay?
Hmm.
There's no duality in that there is no evil, that there is no good. They simply enter your life because your mind accepts dual forces. When you repair that break, there's no more separation. You are one with the whole of God. You're the expression of unconditional love. I
Right.
had a person say, that's not possible in this world. And I said, no. Are you serious? It's very possible. That's why we're here.
But I guess, as you said, that because the resistance and the mind consciousness is so dominant in the world, we need that right and wrong just to control from
Yes,
annihilation of human beings.
that's correct.
However, that's not the truth.
No, it is not the truth. It's just a protective measure. It's like putting the band aid on.
Hmm. Hmm.
The only way that we are going to rise to our limitless and boundlessness of our truth is how?
Is by repairing the breaks in our mind and going beyond them one by one.
Yeah, one by one. And once we do that, what happens, Siley, is that we shift the collective consciousness. And
Yeah.
one by one, we do make a difference.
I just realized something because people don't work on themselves, they're not actually doing the work. They need these good and bad rules because
Yes,
then they like because you don't want a lot of chaos or violence to happen, you create the good and bad. But if you just work on yourself and you realize what the truth is, you won't need those rules at all.
exactly right. Exactly
It-
right.
yeah. So
And
yeah, that's why we are creating all these things because we think we need to understand what is good and bad so as to become the good person, but all we need to become is our truth.
it's just our truth. And you know what? I'm not going to make light of it because it's hard work. We're stripping away every attachment and every ego. I mean, that's not the simple thing to do. I mean, I was practicing a lawyer for all those years, and I was very strong in ego. And you know that too, Siley. You know, we've
Yeah.
had these interactions often. The thing
Yeah.
is, we've got to strip them away and transform that energy to pure love. And once we come to the place where we are one with the whole of God, we unconditionally love, and that's what we express. Then
So
there's no duality in our lives. Then
yeah.
we take the next step. We shift the consciousness and we live that way.
You know what I'm feeling these days is that more and more people are open to doing that because you can see all over the world that the good and bad, all these things are just blurring. There is no exact good or exact bad here. Because everybody has got their stories, and whichever side you take, you realize that they have been through their own challenges. So there is no definite good, absolute good or absolute bad. So people are, I think, probably is beginning to look within themselves
Well,
to
you know
see where
what?
it's coming from.
You're right, Siley, because people are getting to the point where you can't fix it. You can't fix
Yeah,
it from the outside in. And especially now with social media so prevalent, what happens is we, in real time, see what's happening. And
yeah,
this is all dual energy. This is evil and good. I mean, even remember there was a lot of expression over spiritual warfare. Well, yes, spiritual warfare is very much the same thing. Because what happens is one side is saying good, one side is seeing evil. Well, as long as that's where we're coming from, we're the creator of that. There's a
yeah,
fight over good and evil if we're accepting that in our mind. But why not transform all of that energy to the pure love of self and rise above the need for duality and
yeah.
be
You're,
one?
you're so right. Actually, people who start working on themselves, that includes me too, we start thinking that now we are the right people and the people who are
That's right.
not doing that. So it creeps up everywhere, the right, wrongs, and it's also part of our ego, as you said. And every break, we'll discuss what the breaks are sometime, but every break, whenever it occurs, we have to identify it at every step, even when we are doing the
Exactly.
work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because the repair of the brakes is basically the stripping away of the attachments and the ego that holds us in bondage. We don't even realize it's what you said earlier about the beginning when we started as little children. You know,
yeah,
how did we know we had attachments and ego issues? We didn't know. I mean, we came here and that's what we learned from our parents. And then we go to school and that becomes part of what we're learning as well. But there
yeah,
is something so grand when we rise above it and we
yeah,
start to express that unconditional love. It has to begin here. It has to begin with the self.
yeah. So beautiful, Jewel. I think this was vital, and I have to have that reminder every time I'm doing this work, just as I had this experience at the beginning of
I
this
thought it was
video.
wonderful. I just started to chuckle, Siley, because I said, oh, okay. So there's an experience, and it's tied directly to what your theme was that you selected for this morning.
Yeah,
How awesome is that? But
it's
that's our
awesome.
creation.
Yeah,
That's our capacity to create limitlessness.
yeah. I'll just keep working on that every time it reoccurs. And we'll do another session on how to really transform this resisting energy, repair the breaks.
That will be
But
wonderful.
yeah,
Remember that the intensity, when we look at the experience that is occurring out there, okay, it seems very intense. You know
yeah,
why? Because the intensity is built into the collective consciousness. And the
yeah,
collective consciousness, the intensity, will create whatever it needs because that's how we are created, so that we can create whatever it is that we need, so that we can identify and even transform. Because we have
yeah.
that beautiful potential, darling. We have that
We do.
potential, and that's the beauty.
Sometimes people look at what's happening in the world and they are like, how can people be so cruel or how can people do this? But in fact, all of us have that within us.
Exactly
And
right.
whenever the situations arise, we respond in that way because that's part of human mind, collective mind.
Right.
So
That's
instead of
exactly
looking
right.
at them as separate and somebody who's doing bad things, realize that it's part of our
Well, you know
consciousness.
what? It's really easy if you look at it from the perspective that there's a level of consciousness where victims
Yeah,
exist, right? It's a
yeah,
victim consciousness. And then right above it is the power, control, manipulation, because most people don't want to be victims. So they
yeah,
want to usurp power, control. They want to manipulate everything that's externally. That's what's going on with these conflicts.
yeah, yeah. But it's
So
not sustainable. It's just not, it's not going to work.
these are band-aids, and then you know what, there will be a bomb thrown and it'll quiet down, but it's never fixed until one by one we fix, we repair our breaks, we rise to the level of who we are.
Yep.
That's our true
And-
potential.
Yep. And everybody's got it and everybody can do it. So just got
Right,
to
how about
start it.
when, hey, how about when you say, but that's an illusion? Well, you tell me that knocking off babies' heads are an illusion? Yes, and I'm going to tell you why. It's an illusion for one reason, because when we shift consciousness, we shift the need for that experience.
Hmm. That's a bit deep to understand. Like how, when we experience something in this world, how can we call it an illusion? Because people say, oh, it's happening right here in front of me. So we are not denying that it's not happening. It is
That's
happening.
correct. It's
But
happening. And it even feels very horrific when you see
yeah,
something like that happening. However, if you're coming from unconditional love, you're realizing that these people are creating it on the basis of their consciousness. So, am I going to condemn them, or am I going to unconditionally love them to go through what they need, including the beautiful people that are affected by this horrific act,
yeah, yeah. So
right?
we all are creating as per the consciousness that we have, and whatever we are creating, there's no reason to condemn that and say, this is, oh, I created such a bad thing. No, you're just creating your experience because you
Right.
need it to rise beyond it. That's all.
Beautiful. Honey, that's beautiful. Big hug.
Big hug to you.
Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you so much, Jewel. That was
I love you,
wonderful.
sweetheart. I love you, and have a perfect day. Ah, it's in your night. I'll have a perfect day.
Yeah, you have a perfect day. Bye bye.
Bye, sweetheart.